Your next promotion is within your control, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 68. In today's episode, I'm having a really incredible conversation with Shellye Archambeau. Shellye is the author of the book Unapologetically Ambitious. Take risks, break barriers, and create success on your own terms. In this interview, you are going to learn how Shellye's ambition of becoming a CEO since she was 16 years old guided her entire career and all of the choices that she made along the way. She is one of Silicon Valley's first female African-American CEOs, and her journey to the top did not come without challenges. So she tells us today how you can overcome those challenges yourself and how you can create essentially your own promotion blueprint, your own pathway to get yourself to a senior executive leadership position. I can't wait for you to hear it. Listen on.
Career with Stacy Mayer, a podcast about achieving your career goals while also being yourself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Maximize Your Career. I'm your host, Stacy Mayer, and I have a very special guest with us this week. Her name is Shellye Archambeau, and I met Shellye last year. She was actually interviewed on my dear friend, my mentor, my colleague, Lila Bullingtown's webinar series, and you heard from Lila. Go back to December and I will share that link in the show notes, the interview that I did with Lila on emotional intelligence. So Lila interviews Shellye, and whenever I hear somebody that I'm just like, oh, whoa, that person has it. That person has figured it out. She has cracked the code of not only what it takes to get here, but what it takes to get there, what it takes to get to that next level of leadership. She has lived, she has breathed that in her corporate career. And now she has done that by turning it into a book and becoming a national speaker on the subject of unapologetic ambition. Now, when you hear those words, so I'm just going to tell you from my own experience, when I hear those words, I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it, right? And when you see it, you see executive leaders with unapologetic ambition, and you're like, yes, that is what got them there, right? It makes sense. And then my brain, I don't know if yours is the same way, you go, but how? How do I do that? What does that mean, right? How do I actually put that into practice? And Shellye is a walking, breathing example of that, not only in her career, in her life, and how she shows up every day, but then she's also given us the tools of the how in this beautiful book. So I'm so thrilled to have her with you today, to have her with us today, to share her wisdom so that she can start to tell us how to be a little bit more unapologetic, ambitious in our everyday. So let me do a more formal introduction of Shellye before we get started. Shellye Archambeau is the former CEO of Metric Stream, who Reid Hoffman, the co-founder and former executive chairman of LinkedIn, describes as the woman who pulled off the most incredible Silicon Valley turnaround you never heard of. That just gave me goosebumps. I want this. When they talk about manifesting and putting your ideas out there, I think I might just put what Stacy Mayer is going to do, right? Like that already gives me an idea. I'm like, ooh, what do I want to be known as? Archambeau currently sits on the boards of Nordstrom, Verizon, Roper Technologies, and Okta. She advises the Royal Bank of Canada, Capital Markets, and Forbes Ignite, as well as growing startups. She is regularly named on Who's Who's lists in technology and is the protagonist of the Harvard Business School case study, Becoming a CEO. She is the author of Unapologetically Ambitious, Take Risks, Break Barriers, and Create Success on Your Own Terms. Yes, 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 I want that. A book that will inspire you and provide the tools to enable you to fight the battles, make the trade-offs, and create the life that you want. In her spare time, she is a Forbes contributor, runs a gourmet dinner club, and writes the blog that provides career advice, insight, and other musings from her career at Shellye.com. I'll link to that so that you'll know how to spell her name because she is the Shellye. I love that. She's already just a first name superstar. I'm just so excited, Shellye. Let's have you introduce yourself. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, well, listen, Stacy, thanks so much for having me and for that glowing introduction. So I'm just a little Black girl who grew up in the 60s for elementary school when the world was, we think racial challenges are heavy now. Back then, it was very, very challenging. So I knew very early in life that the odds weren't in my favor. And yet I wanted to run a company one day. So I spent my career basically building strategy, figuring out tactics, coming up with approaches to try to improve my odds to actually get what I wanted out of life. And I was able to actually do that. So yes, I wrote the book because I wanted to share for others, but especially women, people of color, folks from challenged backgrounds, right? There are a lot of us whose odds are not in our favor to get what we want. And I wanted to share with all of them, here's how to improve your odds.
Yes.
Here's what you can actually do to take ownership of your own life and create the success that you want and that you define for yourself. So that's why I wrote the book.
Why did you want to run your own business?
Well, it was interesting. I was in high school and had that faithful conversation with your guidance counselor in your junior year. Do you want to go to college? Yes, I want to go to college. What do you want to do after college? I didn't know. I mean, my family's all about get good grades so you can go to a good college so you can get a job. And then you're done. So when they said, what job? I'm like, I don't know. So she said, to her credit, the counselor said, well, what do you like to do? And I said, clubs. I'm in American Field Service, National Honor Society, French Club, right? You name it, I'm in it. But more than that, I like running them. I'm president of this one, vice president of that one, president. And she said, well, business is just like clubs, pull people together to go after a common mission, get things done. And I went, done. I want to go into business. And I like running clubs, so I'll run a business. And I looked up and the people who run businesses were called CEOs. And I said, great, I'll become a CEO.
Oh my goodness. It's so interesting because I always do values exercises with my clients, and leadership as a core value will come up so often for them. And there's always this sort of disconnect. Well, that's not really a value. It's kind of just what I do, right? Like, it's just like, I never really identified as, I'm like, no, you actually like being in charge. So in terms of that, there's like this double-edged sword. When I say you actually like being in charge, I can see the fire light up in them, but then they're like, oh, but I'm not supposed to do that, right? I'm not supposed to like being in charge. But I could tell from your story, you were like very early on, no, I like being in charge. I like running things. So tell us about that in terms of unapologetic ambition, where that kind of comes from, how you have to own that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. For me, getting into leadership, I learned that by actually being the leader or being in charge or whatever it was, that two things. One, I could kind of protect myself, and I'll be happy to touch on that in a minute if you want me to. But number two, I could influence where I actually spent time, what I did. And literally, it was in Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout forever, even through high school, but I didn't tell anybody. But I was a Girl Scout forever. And in Girl Scouts, they try early on at young ages to actually give you responsibility. You're responsible to collect the wood. You're responsible to, build the fire. You're responsible, which is great for leadership, et cetera. Well, I figured out that if I actually was in a leadership role, I got to help decide who did what. And I didn't like collecting wood because you had to pick up that wood and there's bugs and things. And never knew what was underneath that log, right? Or that piece of stuff. And I hated that. So I'm like, if I'm actually like in charge and working with the team, I can kind of pick what I do, which won't be collecting wood. So was my early taste of leadership. And then, the whole protect yourself thing was, I grew up in an environment, I said it was racially charged. And so people did a lot of things that weren't very nice to me. And I'm kind of being pretty light. It was pretty terrible to me. But by actually having a role and having credibility, it helped actually build some of that, respect that I was so craving. So all of that really came together in this whole leadership thing. And so, yeah, when I was like, oh, business, sure, that's like clubs. I love that. So I'll go run a business. But I had no idea what it really meant to be a CEO. I mean, come on, I'm 16. I had no idea what it meant. But I'm goal oriented. So I was like, all right, now that I have a goal, how do I manifest that goal? And, Stacy, I literally asked myself 3 questions. And whether this is true, whether it's a personal objective or a professional objective, what is it I want to make happen? So what is it I want to either create, to impact, or to achieve? And then I ask, well, what has to be true for me to actually do that? So when I looked at CEO, I'm like, all right, I want to be a CEO. Well, what has to be true for me to be a CEO? Well, that's where you do your research. What has to be true? In order to answer that question, you have to do your homework. And homework goes on forever. It doesn't stop in school. So I did the research. Who were the CEOs? What were their backgrounds? What kind of degrees did they have? What kind of home life did they have? I researched everything. And then I said, all right, next question. How do I make that true? And that becomes the plan. So I knew that I needed credentials because nobody looked like me in those jobs. So I needed the highest credentials I could get. So I went to Wharton, right? I knew that all the CEOs I reached out to, they're all men. I didn't see women. Definitely didn't see Black people. And then most of them had stay-at-home wives if they were married. So I'm like, I want a husband and I want kids. So I need to find a husband who's actually going to be supportive and maybe even stay home with the kids at some point if that's required, because that's what has to be true. So how do I make that true? Well, I made it one of the criteria when I was deciding when I was getting married, right? So, this whole thing drove everything I did in life. I'd always say, what is it I want? What has to be true for me to achieve it? How do I make it true? And then I'd go execute that plan.
Yeah. This sort of answers the question I was going to ask you, which just is like, how do we become a CEO? Right. And you're like, you figure it out and it's unique to you, but yet there are clues out there for us to follow.
Absolutely. And it's so much easier today with LinkedIn and the web. You can figure out what the career paths are and how you go do it. I talk about it in the book in terms of finding the current of power. Mm-hmm. Right? Every organization and or industry has a current. Look at who's in leadership. What were their roles? What were their jobs? What divisions? What groups? And typically you'll find, that 80-20 rule where a good 80% kind of went through a very similar path. Well, I consider that the path to power. It's the current. It's like getting on a river. Yes, if I'm paddling against the current, can I still get where I'm going? Absolutely. Is it hard and slow? Yes. Mm-hmm. If I get on the current and I start paddling like crazy, I get there a lot faster because the current is moving me as well as my own power. So find the current within your business, within your company, within your industry, and figure out how to let that current help propel you as well as the work that you do.
So I want to go back in time because there's something that's kind of coming up for me as I'm listening to you where I'm like, oh, that's Shellye though. Right? Shellye always knew that she's in leadership. She seems extremely proactive. She went to Wharton, like she made it happen. Right? I doubt myself, right? Like, I'm just like, I'm thinking through the listener, right? That it's almost like you're this like magical unicorn. And I know that is not true. So let's go back a little bit and remind ourselves that you are like all of my listeners.
Listen, it's so true, Stacy. Part of the reason why I wrote the book was there are too many books out there where you read about what somebody's done with their career. What you hear is, I took step 1, step 2, had a little hurdle, jumped over it, step 3, boom, right? It all seems so easy. It's not, okay? People don't tell you life is hard. Yeah. I'm here to tell you it is hard. So I don't mince any of that in terms of in the book. I have suffered from imposter syndrome my entire life. I still do at times, which is ridiculous. Okay. But I do. So self-doubt, yes. Right. Imposter syndrome, absolutely. Fear, uncertainty, doubt, all that stuff. Yes. I sit up now and you hear me and I talk and I'm all confident. Well, listen, it took me how old am I? So I'm 58 years old. Okay. So it took me a long time to get to this point, but no, I was not born this way. So thank you for asking that question. If I roll back, All right, if I roll back, what countered that fear, what countered the trepidation was a couple of things. One, I grew up in a family of 4. My parents were crazy, Stacy. They had 4 children in less than 5 years. Yeah, imagine. I can't. So we grew up very close, but also very competitive. So I had that whole competitive thing going. And then again, 60s elementary school, a lot of white environments. I was not treated well. I mean, I was beat up. I was, tormented, verbally abused. I mean, it was not good. So you come home when things happen to you, right? And you say to your mom or your dad, but mom was a stay-at-home mom. So you'd say to mom, such and such happened. It's not fair, right? It's not fair. And mom would just look at me and say, you're right, Shellye. Life's not fair. What? Life is supposed to be fair. If you get one cookie, I should get a cookie, right? As a kid, everything should be fair. But she was really clear. I didn't get that hug, that whole thing. Oh, it'll be fair later. No, life is not fair. So what are you going to do about it? And then this second message was, you can't control what people say to you, because they would say horrible things. And you can't control what they would do to you, likewise. But you can control how you respond. So don't let them win. And winning is when what they say or what they do impacts how you feel, especially about yourself. So don't let them win. They don't know you. They don't know you. So don't let them win. Who are they to judge you? Who are they to make you feel bad? They don't know you. So the combination of those two things, life's not fair, right? And you can't control what people say or what they do, but you can control how you respond. That really made up the framework, that combined with my competitive nature of really saying, okay, I have got to figure out how I get what I want in this life, because nobody's going to give it to me, right? Mom said, figure out what you do. It's not fair. Okay. So that's what really set out my whole focus on being intentional. Because what I learned is if I was intentional, if I set that goal and then really work toward it, I can improve my odds of actually making it happen. And therefore, that became what I did. Now, did I have fear? Yes. Were there times when I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't do this, or wait till they figure out that I don't really know as much as I know, and all that kind of stuff, right? Yes. But what I did was I tried to surround myself with people who build me up, not tear me down.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer, Stacy, in cheerleaders. And I mean real cheerleaders. Go, Stacy. Yeah, Shellye, you got this, John. Come on, Shaniqua. Let's go, Jamal, right? It's the people in your life who are the ones to remind you when you're sitting there saying, oh my God, I don't think I can do this job, or I don't know about that promotion, or I don't know if I should actually take on this, whatever project or speech or whatever. They're the ones that are saying, of course you should. You can absolutely do this. Rah, go, right? Go do this. Because honestly, I think we live in a very judgmental world that it's just exacerbating all the reasons we feel inadequate, right? We need people around us who remind us actually what we can do and how good we are, because I'm not strong enough. I needed those people to push through. So I believe that everyone should have those people in their lives to help them push through, because remember what I said earlier? Life is hard. You cannot do this by yourself. Nobody achieves anything of significance. Nobody, all by themselves. And if they tell you they did, they are lying. Okay? So don't think you should do this all by yourself. Get help. Get help.
So what do we do instead? This goes back to the role models. We surround ourselves in a 40, 60-hour work week with a lot of people who are telling us we can't do it, right? Indirectly and often directly, right? And we take that as what it is. Well, my spouse tells me I'm really great, but that's about it, right? And so at that executive level, it's this shift of saying, no, I am humble enough to say, no, I don't have to figure it out first so that I can become a CEO. I surround myself with the right people who are going to cheerlead me, who are going to tell me and remind me of the power. It's not fake, of the power that is within you so that you can make it into that position.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I talk about imposter syndrome all through the book, And I talk about how to deal with it because frankly, I don't know how to get over it. Like I said, I still suffer from it from time to time, but I can tell you how to deal with it so it does not stop you. That's the key. Do not let it stop you. Because honestly, at the end of the day, whatever comes your way, you ultimately figure it out. So give yourself the benefit of the doubt, right? And if that means, okay, pretend you know what you're doing until you do, then do that. Because eventually you will figure it out. You always do. You always do.
Right.
So we just need people around us who are reminding us of that fact. So we'll step forward. So we'll raise our hands. So we'll volunteer, right? And then, take help. In my experience, most people want to be helpful if asked in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So let people help you, right? Figure out how to ask in the right way. And can I just share one example?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
So sample of that, Stacy, and what's worked for me is, you have a conversation with somebody that could be helpful in the future or is in the up chain or whatever it is. And you say, one day I aspire to be the chief revenue officer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I have the potential? Now, in that question, you've done a couple things. One, you've told them what you want, right? Now, you didn't do it by saying, you didn't walk in and say, hey, I want to be chief marketing officer. So how do we make it happen? Right? No, nobody wants to work with that kind of person. No. You walk in instead and ask them the question. Do you think I have the potential? Now, by asking potential, that's such an easy yes. All right. And people want to be able to say yes. So my experience is they always say yes, because potential, what's potential, right? Everybody's got potential. So yes, great. Now it's like fishing and they just bit the hook because now you get to follow up. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Thank you. What experience do you think I need to add, right, to my resume background to help me better compete for that kind of role? Or what skills do you think I should enhance? Right? You ask them a question. Not all of the things I just said, one question. Mm-hmm. Now they're going to be compelled to answer because they just told you have potential. So they've got a view. Well, if they just sit there and say, I don't know, they look stupid. People don't want to look stupid. So they will tell you something. Great. Now they told you something. Oh, we should blah, 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 blah. Go do it. Go do it. Go do it. All right. And then report back. Oh my gosh, Stacy, thank you so much for the suggestion of doing blah, blah, blah. I did it. I think it actually went well. I'm really pleased with that. Is that the kind of step you thought I should take? Now they have to come back. And either they'll say yes, because that's what they told you to do and you just did it. Or they'll say, well, actually, I meant blah, 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 which is still fine. All right, you go do that. Now, why do you do that? You do that because now you've told them that you're serious. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Two, you're following their advice. So they now start to feel responsible for you, which means you get to ask for more advice.
Yep.
And you keep taking it and you keep reporting back. And before you know it, you've actually got somebody who is mentoring you or sponsoring you because they want to show that they knew what they were talking about. So they want this now to work out. So how do you build supporters? One question at a time.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Now I want to ask you as a supporter, right? I'm sure you have mentored people in your career. Can you think of somebody who you felt extremely proud of, who you were able to help mold and help them grow and give them this advice? I just want to hear it from the from the CEO's mouth, right?
So sure. So I'll give you, matter of fact, I talk about her in the book because I give examples. Her name is Sophia. So Sophia and I met because she bought me. It was at an auction, and this had to be, oh man, I mean, her kids weren't even, she was pregnant with her first child, and this had to be 15 years ago, something like it. It's been a long time. So she bought me one of these auctions where you could bid on having an hour lunch with somebody and get advice, right?
Amazing.
Yep. So she bid on me in this auction. So we got together. And here's what Sophia did that most don't do. Most people, by the way, are terrible mentees. We
I
could
know.
put a pin on that and come back.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we spent time. She asked for advice, both professional, personal. She was at the time an engineering senior manager, and she had big aspirations. Okay. Well, she constantly reached out, reported back, let me know what she was doing, how things were going, blah, blah, blah. 15 years later, she's still my mentee. And Sophia is now a general manager. And I don't know what other title goes with that, but in an AI space for Microsoft. All right. She has done extremely well. She currently sits on a public board. She has 2 children, marriage. I mean, so she now has the things that she was shooting for, right, in her overall career. So that would be an example of somebody that I've mentored that actually has also been able to achieve her aspirations.
You said that she did something different. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So the reason I said most people are terrible mentees is because most people are. The mentee mentor relationship is a relationship. It is not a come and take, come and take, come and take. So what does that mean? That means both parties have to get value, Stacy. So what Sophia did was she'd ask for advice, right, or perspective. Then she'd go off and do some things, and then she'd report back. Hey, I did X, Y, Z, like you suggested. This worked or this didn't, right? What happened, etc. Why is that important? It's important because now I get feedback. Number one, I know that, hey, she actually listened to me. 2, that she took advice and she's learning. So she's a listener and a learner, right? And when things work, it makes me feel good, which means I'm getting value. Most people, I find, squander opportunities. They'll ask me for perspective or advice or whatever, and then crickets. Hear nothing. Don't hear from them again. I have no idea. They might come back a year or 2 or 3 later and say, oh, so-and-so, da, da, da. And I'm kind of like, well, we don't have a relationship. I mean, why would I invest more time when I have no idea whether it was helpful, whether it was worth anything? I mean, time is my most precious commodity. So a good mentee actually takes ownership for the relationship. They're the ones that reach out to set time. They send the agenda before you actually meet. So that as a mentor, you get a chance to think about what the issues or topics are, right? They report back on, hey, what worked, what didn't. They let you know how things are progressing. So when you meet next, you're kind of caught up with what's going on. The mentee is the owner of the relationship, not the mentor. Mm-hmm. Not the mentor, it's the mentee. And most people don't do that.
Amazing. I love that story so much because I see it all the time, right? And it's the first thing that comes into my listeners' minds a lot of times is they're too busy, right? Their time is so valuable. And then you think about Sophia, she's got this double whammy, which is, well, I bought her time, mm-hmm. right? So I really need to respect it and not ask for more and not put, and then you just no, this is, listen to what Shellye just said. She genuinely wants to help. And if you think about whoever your mentor is, I always tell my clients, look, let them control their own calendar. Very important people know how to set boundaries. That's how they got there. If they don't have time to meet with you, or if they can't talk about something, they will tell you, but don't get into their calendar, right? Speak up, share, tell them what's working. And then from Shellye's mouth, it actually feels good to her, right? Believe her when she says that.
Yeah,
that's so helpful.
Absolutely. And there's more, my other advice with regards to the whole mentor thing is, I was fortunate to have had experience early in my career that shaped my entire outlook to mentors. I was at IBM about 6 years in. So I'm still in my 20s, and IBM decided they want their high potential employees to have mentors, but they asked us who we wanted our mentors to be. Okay. So I picked a gentleman by the name of Roland Harris. He was a couple levels above me. And, I knew him. I thought he liked me. So I said, great, I'll pick Roland. Well, several days later, I get a call. Shellye. Hey, Roland. Shellye, you put my name down to be your mentor. Well, yeah, Roland, I thought you liked me. Shellye, you've got me. Go get somebody else. And I was like, what? So I learned two things.
Oh,
Right? I learned two things in that conversation. One, this whole mentee mentor thing, it doesn't have to be formal. I had no idea Roland considered himself a mentor. Two, I can have as many mentors as I want. He told me to go get another one. So literally, for the rest of my career, I adopted mentors all over the place. I've had so many people say, "Who is your mentor?" And I'm like, what? No, I have no idea. I've never written down all their names, but I might have 100. I mean, when I say mentors, I mean mentors everywhere. And here's what I learned. Back to taking help. No matter what job you get, somebody else has done it before. 99% odds. Somebody else has done it before. People think of mentors as people to help them with, their career plans, what job they do next, right? The future. Guess what? That future doesn't happen until you nail the job you've got. All right. So get mentors to help you do the job you've got. That's like the biggest leverage you can possibly get. So go find the people that have done this job, right? And leverage that. So, that's something that I learned early. Again, I took on a new job that was a brand new focus kind of at IBM. So it wasn't like there were a ton of people around, but my boss, to his credit, said, "Hey, Shellye, there's a guy in Baltimore." I was in Pennsylvania at the time. There's a guy in Baltimore. He's actually been doing this for about 7 months. You might go chat with him. And I did. And you know what? That was so helpful that I was like, I'm doing this every time. I'm always going to find people who've done the job that I've got. Why start at home plate when you can talk to people and start on first base? Right? If you're ambitious, you want to move forward, but move forward quickly. So back to the help, take help. And most people want to help if asked properly. Okay. And then the biggest way I've found to actually build these networks and things like that is I help other people. I'm a giver. You need help, you need advice. I offer. That's how you meet people. That's how you actually create relationships. Relationships aren't how many people's names and phone numbers I have on my phone. To me, a network is comprised of people who will do something for you when it's not convenient. That is a network, and that you have to build and you have to earn.
Now, this is going to take us down a little bit of a different track, but I couldn't help but think about this when you were speaking. So as a woman or a male minority leader, we might see things happening at our organization, like microaggressions or certain types of behavior happening in leadership that we feel compelled to speak up and to change or just share what it is that we're experiencing and seeing. Yet we're also ambitious, and we know that we can't just, scream at people and call people out in the middle of a meeting or say exactly what we feel all the time. We want to instead speak up in a way that can actually be heard instead of just sharing our voice. So can you speak to that for a minute about what we should do when we see certain types of behavior happening at our workplace that we feel compelled to share or speak up about, and how we can actually get those ideas across in a way that can be heard?
One of the challenges about being a minority and a female within different organizations is because I'm both, I see so many instances of microaggressions, right? And things that people say and bias, right? And stuff that's out there. I see it all the time. The challenge is I need to do two things. One, pick my battles where I believe I can have the most impact. And two, try to make things better for people that are coming behind me. All right. So that's what I try to do. So in doing that, it's then figuring out how do you raise issues in a way that actually moves things forward. And let me give you an example. I've been in rooms where people will talk about, yes, we need to improve diversity. So let's look for a woman or look for a person of color. Fill in the blank. And somebody will invariably say, oh, absolutely, but we can't lower the bar. All right? Okay. Well, what does that mean? Well, when somebody says we can't lower the bar, What they're communicating is they think that women and people of color are by definition not capable, not as capable as non-women and non-people of color, because otherwise you wouldn't raise the whole bar thing. You don't talk about the bar when you're just looking at a job in general, right? And trying to hire for it. But many people, when they say that, they don't even realize that that's what they're communicating. So there are different ways of doing this. So in this meeting, you could sit there and say out loud, do you realize how, racist or discriminatory or biased that statement is? What were you thinking?
Yeah.
The problem is when you call people out, especially in public like that, they get defensive because most people don't even realize what they're insinuating, right? When they say something like that. So all of a sudden they become defensive. Well, as soon as people become defensive, they stop listening. Mm-hmm. And now it's all about them because now they have to support their position and not about the issue, right? And you get paid because people remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
They don't remember what you said. They don't remember what you do. They remember how you make them feel. And you just made them feel badly.
Yes.
Which is going to hurt you in a relationship standpoint. It's hard to do business like that. So how do I do it? When that's raised, all right, a couple ways, depends on how well I knew the people around the room, how big the room is. If it's a big room and I don't know people well, all right, what I typically will do is I won't actually raise it in that setting. Instead, right after the session though, I'll say, hey, John, Jacob, Weber, can I just grab you for a second? And then I'll tell them, I said, I don't know if you realize it, but when you make the statement, we just can't lower the bar after talking about women or people of color as a candidate. What that actually implies to people like me who are listening is that you think by definition, we are substandard. And I know that's not what you meant, right? So I give them the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. I know that's not what you meant. So I just wanted to let you know how it's being interpreted because I don't want people to misunderstand your position, right? And your view. So what have I done? I've just taken that whole issue and I've actually done them a favor, right? Because I put it in the context of them and how I don't want them hurt or them to be tainted or them to be. And you know what happens? They listen. And it's, oh, thank you for letting me know. I didn't realize that. Right? And so you start to fix those things.
Yes.
Now, if you're in a room where you know most of the people, you can do the same thing in the group. Like say it's a small group and you know most of them. And you can just say, hey, Stacy, I know you just said blah, 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 blah. And I know you didn't mean this, right? So you lighten it up, right?
Right.
I know you didn't mean this. But actually, people who don't know you might think when you make a statement like this that you meant blah, 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 blah. But I know you. All right, now what have I done? Again, I've communicated it, but I've done it easily. I have not created this tension so that we can still have a good relationship, right? Going forward. Business is about relationships. So the key is to use your power in the best way to get your point across, to make the change, right? But not create environments that then become tough to overcome. And the other is pick your battles. If you're rising and you're ambitious, the higher up you get, the more impact you get to have.
Exactly.
So certain battles, you want to wait till you get certain roles. I sit on the board of directors of Fortune 500 companies. Am I making impact? You damn right I am.
Absolutely.
And I'm raising issues? I absolutely am. I've earned it. I'm now at the spot, right?
Yep.
So get to the role that has the power and make the change.
Absolutely. That actually segues great into your book. So you transitioned into this public figure, I guess, so to speak. Can you talk about what happened in terms of your career where you said, okay, I've done this phase of my career, and now I'm going to make a different type of impact on the world?
Yeah, well, I'm a planner, right? Set goals, make plans, the whole bit. So when I I guess I was in my early 30s when I realized there was such a thing as a board of directors and that the CEO actually reports to the board and the board hires and fires them. And I went, oh, I want that job.
So you went one step. So when you were 16, it was the CEO, but then at some point you realized, oh, there's somebody else up there who's calling the shots. Oh,
I want that job. All right. And so I did what I always do. What has to be true, right? I went and do the research. Who are these board directors? What are their skills? So I laid out a plan. So my plan was, because the number one request at the time for board members were people with experience serving on boards.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, this is kind of a catch-22. How do you get the experience? So I said, all right, what that means is as soon as I possibly can, I need to get on a public board. just one, so that I can have years of experience. So then when I'm ready for my phase two, and phase two for me was when I always wanted to be in control of my calendar so that I could spend time how I wanted to spend it. Still, I wanted to impact, but I also wanted to be able to inspire. And I thought, and I wanted to be self-sufficient. So I didn't have to worry about being paid by people and all those kinds of good things. So I said, all right, I don't know when I want to go into phase two. In my mind, I was probably thinking, 60, 65, I'll go into phase two. But I wanted to have everything lined up. So when I was ready to pull the ripcord, time for phase two, it was easy. That's the whole reason you plan, right? Make things easy, improve your odds. So great. So I became CEO at 40, and I immediately started working on my board seat. And I got a board seat at 42. And then my plan was to ride that out, which I did. But what happened was my husband actually became ill with a terminal cancer. And so I needed to pull that ripcord earlier than anticipated. Now, the good news is I had planned for it. So I wasn't expecting the timing. I pulled the ripcord about 3 years ago. And it was the right decision to make because it gave me more flexibility. I was able to spend more time with him before he passed, and I have no regrets. So now I'm in phase two, which is all about impact and inspiration. I want more people to be able to achieve their aspirations, but especially women and people of color. Because for the most part, in my experience, most women and people of color aren't able to contribute to, 50, 60% of their true capabilities. And I think that's ridiculous. So I wanted to write the book to share strategies, approaches, hacks, techniques, whatever, things that I used on here's how you can improve your odds to actually get what you want if you're willing to be intentional and do the work. So that's what I'm doing. So right now, impact, I'm serving on boards, I advise companies, right? All those things are impactful. And inspiration, write the book, I'm speaking, I'm sharing stuff on social media, blogs, what have you. I'm just trying to put it out there to say, hey, listen, I want more people to be able to get here because I didn't get here by myself. And I want to make sure I help as many others as I can.
So can you give us any final words of advice for a senior executive leader looking to transition into higher levels of leadership? Anything as we're going out? I know we've talked about a lot today, but anything else that we didn't touch on that you'd like to share?
Yes. Just two quick things. One, you own your career. You do. Not your boss, not your mentor, not your company. You own your career. You would never spend thousands and thousands of dollars on an airline ticket, pack your bags, put the dog in the kennel, hold your mail, let your neighbors know you're going to be gone for a while, head to the airport, buckle that seatbelt, and then look at the pilot and say, so, where are we going anyway? But people do that with their career all the time. They spend tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on education and coaches and teachers and conferences and all these things. And then they work hard, put their head down, work hard, and they wait for tap, tap, tap. Oh, Stacy, you can do this now. Okay. Tap, tap, tap. Oh, you can do that now. Okay. What? No, you own your career. Decide what it is you're trying to do, where it is that you're going, and then make decisions and be intentional, right? To be able to try to drive that. Number two, make sure people know what you do, not your title. All right. So in our culture, we introduce, hey, how are you? And it's very socially acceptable to say, oh, what do you do, Stacy? Right? And people will say, oh, I'm executive vice president of operations for XYZ company. Okay. What does that mean? I don't know. Because a title doesn't mean anything outside of the organization that you're actually in. Because the roles and responsibilities are dictated by the company or by the division. Heck, it can vary in division to division. You want to make sure that people know what your skills are, what your strengths are, so that if they hear of opportunities, if they know of cool, neat initiatives or task force that you should be part of, they will think of you. So no, you're not just the EVP of operations. What are you? You're the EVP of operations. You have responsibility for all of the full supply chain globally for your most critical blah, 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 blah. 20 seconds, no more. 20 seconds, you're answering a question. More than that, you're bragging. All right. 20 seconds. Practice it. Pick what your speech is going to be. And whenever people say, what do? Don't you dare stop at your title. For as much as we negotiate and we fight for and aspire to titles, they are meaningless. So tell people what you do. And then the last thing is, for God's sake, take risks. All right. Corporations were formed, the legal entity of a corporation was put in place so that people could come together and take shared risk. All right. It's the foundation of a company. So if you are not able to demonstrate that you are good and capable at risk taking, you are not making it to the C-suite. All right. I've been a CEO. I've been a board director. One of the things that holds people back the most is they're not risk takers. All right. I don't want risk takers leading a company, because you have to take risks. You don't win in the market. You don't expand in the market. You don't enter new markets unless you take risks. So they aren't going to put people in place to drive shareholder value who aren't taking risks. So you have to learn how to take effective risk. Do not be too conservative. All right. Take risks, learn how to do it. So anyway, I could go on. Read the book.
Yes, exactly.
But at least do those three things.
Well, and I was just thinking that it's actually, as a reminder, it is risky to go to your boss and to say, I want to become a CMO. What should I do? This is what we talked about earlier in this episode, right?
Yes.
And then go do it and come back and say, okay, this is what I tried. This worked. Is that the way? It is risky in a good sense, in the most simplistic way, to just show up, to be unapologetically ambitious, and to say, I'm here to grow. I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn from you. Right?
Exactly right. And let me just, one more caveat on this whole ambitious thing, because you're right. We almost started earlier. When people think of people who are ambitious, they think, oh, somebody's like clawed their way, elbowed others out, took credit. Blah, blah. That's not ambitious. That's just rude. Okay. What is ambition? All ambitious means is there is something in the future that you want to create, that you want to impact, or that you want to achieve. That's it. And you're working toward it. Yep. Right? So that's it. That is ambition. Everyone deserves to be ambitious.
That's amazing. Thank you, Shellye. So how do we find you? How do we connect with you? Besides, I'll link to your book in the show notes. So definitely check out Unapologetically Ambitious. How else should they follow you?
Shellye.com, and that's Shellye with a Y-E, SHELLYE.com. You can find me. Follow me. I'm very active on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, right? Twitter, etc. If you heard anything today that was helpful or inspiring, post about it. Tag me. I'm happy to respond. But I would appreciate the help, because I'm trying to market a book during COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
This is hard. Okay, I need the help. So if anything that you heard was actually helpful or inspiring, just tweet or post or something. Hey, Shellye said X. I really appreciate it. Whatever it might be.
Amazing.
Just tell me.
Yeah.
So thanks in advance for the help. Thanks for having me, Stacy.
Thank you, Shellye.
Well.
I so appreciate it. Thank you. Before you go, I want to make sure you've downloaded my free promotion roadmap. This 7-step guide gives you the exact process that I walk each and every one of my clients through to get them the recognition that they deserve. You can download it for free at stacymayer.com/roadmap. That's STACYMAYER.com/roadmap.